Hey folks. Um, so sort of been feeling something recently that I have wanted to, it's something that comes back periodically, and today it occurred to me to maybe kind of track it or register it for myself. But there's there's part of this process, and when I say this process, I mean anything from our meditation practice to our physical practice to my musical practice, any creative practice we might have. There's this thing that happens, and the reason why it's kind of fresh in my mind is because it's happening right now in I think sort of in the classical piano area of the work I'm doing, and I had a lesson with Madeline yesterday that was mind-blowing, and I say that every time, so it almost starts to sound like I don't know, like I'm making it up, but it's just amazing. Every time I'm on with her, it's just something major comes through. And yesterday we were talking about the basically performance mode, like what I've been calling performance mode now for some time. And performance mode, the way I define it, being this kind of place that I go. I have to define it in my own experience, my own experiential terms, but place I go where I'm attempting to fulfill or meet a standard of excellence, of skill, of competence, however that gets defined in my mind. So I'll be playing for someone or playing a performance, and I will be trying to meet a standard rather than be vulnerable. I had that experience yesterday with Madeline. I was playing the Chopin No. 1 Etude, and I've been practicing it pretty regularly now for a couple weeks. Working with her has changed everything about my approach. It's a whole new, I see the piece in a whole new light. I'm starting to see how I can get to the kind of performance that I've seen other people deliver. I know how that piece is meant to be played in terms of tempo and in terms of energy, and I'd always had the experience of sort of wondering how you get there, and I'm starting to see how you get there. But I also had the experience yesterday of playing for her and feeling like I was tensing up. I just felt literally physical tension as I played, and I was kind of like, well, this is weird. This is so, I'm going into my version of performance mode. And so I sort of worked with that, and we talked a little bit about it afterwards. Basically what came through for me was this sense of being almost invasively observed. That's what it feels like. That's my internal experience. It's like a feeling of observation that's almost threatening in a way. I mean, it's not really threatening. It's just that I'm being evaluated. I feel like I'm being evaluated. That's really kind of what it is. I feel like, and not only am I being evaluated overall, but every tiny little micro detail, especially when someone like Madeline is watching me, and I know every tiny little thing that happens, she's seeing it. It's not like I'm playing for somebody who doesn't, where I can get away with anything. She's going to see right through every detail. And so, but that doesn't, but the thing is, the way she responds is with total compassion and very, very skillful, helpful diagnosis. It's that thing of like, is it better to, can you tell the truth with love? And if you can't tell the truth with love, maybe don't tell the truth. We talked a little bit about that. Because if you can't deliver the truth from a place where the other person is going to benefit from it and be able to receive the information in a way that's helpful. In other words, if the truth is going to be harsh or unhelpful, then maybe you don't say it. And she's we talked a little bit about that just in teaching in general, in both of our teaching, how we negotiate that. So anyway, but back to the performance mode thing. I just felt myself go into that tension, and I was able to. My first impulse was, oh shit, I should just stop playing and start over. But I didn't. I stuck with it. I decided, I'm just gonna breathe with this and see if I can settle in. And I did. I had moments of settling in, but then I also had plenty of moments of coming kind of back into tension, and things that I know had been easy in practice were not easy in performance. And so something's in the way there, and it's really interesting to kind of be coming up against this in my own practicing, because I see this in my students quite a bit, and it happens at all different levels. This phenomenon happens at all different levels. And I think on one level, there is also the fact that I'm not done with the piece. I'm not fully at the point where I know I've mastered it and I know that every detail of it is there, in my technique. So that's part of it. Part of it is doing a performance of something that I know on some level I'm not really ready to perform. Like I'm not there yet, and that's not being unkind to myself or judging myself. That's simply being honest about where I am in the practice process. I know there's some road left, but at the same time, I also had the sense that that's not the only obstacle, because if it feels like I'm always kind of there with a certain level of peace and a certain kind of performance. I'm always kind of there. I hit that barrier of friction and tension, kind of no matter how much I've practiced, and it's so I'm kind of working with, well, what is that? And it's really great to be working with someone like Madeline, who can essentially, when I created my piano course and I started teaching in this way a few years ago, I realized this is the way I've always wanted to be taught. This is how I would want. This is the kind of teaching that I've always wished for myself. And the amazing thing is that after I started doing that, after I started actually teaching other students this way and offering this, I also found it for myself. I also found my teacher, who is doing exactly that for me. So it's kind of an amazing kind of miracle. So anyway, but where I was coming from with all this is so it puts me in a place where, I've been practicing, and I've just been addicted to playing the piano. It's just I'm enjoying it so much. I'm feeling so much joy and enthusiasm, and it's like I could just do it all day. But I'm also, when that happens, when I have a phase of like I'm practicing, something feels really good, and I do a performance, and it's like I'm like, oh shit, I thought I was further along than I am. I'm right back here in the road. I'm not right back where I was, but I'm not as far along as I thought I was. There's this thing that happens where it's kind of like a lull, and it's like a setback. And that's something that it's become very familiar. It's part of the process. And I think what I'm encouraging myself to do, what I'm clocking and encouraging myself to do, is love the lull. let that lull be a chance to actually go back and clarify the steps. You know, it's like if I think that in practice my peace is here, but actually in performance it turns out it's here, what's the gap? You know, what's the gap? And that lull is actually the opportunity to see that. The lull is even though the lull feels like, man, I just took 3 steps back from where I thought I was. It's actually not. It's actually never that. It's actually always a kind of getting an even closer look, an even closer, more detailed, more granular, more high resolution picture of the actual thing. And so I'm practicing loving the lull and letting myself just be where I am. I mean, if it doesn't always come down to that, I don't know what it does come down to, because it's always just a matter of be where you are, show up with what we have. That's what we do. That's the game. That's the whole everything. And chances are, if I could do that in performance more, things would smooth, because I wouldn't be evaluating. Even with, this like all-seeing eye over here of, a master teacher, I would be able to be aware of that, but also know that I am where I am, and that where I am is okay. That's kind of the interesting thing, is as we start to interact with higher consciousness, with true masters, they're seeing right through us, and we know they are. And can we maintain our own integrity within that? Can we not perceive that observation as being a threat? Can we know that it's beneficial and that it's supporting us? And of course, it's great when our teachers actually manifest that. But the truth is, that's what higher consciousness is always manifesting. And so if we can, we may have been programmed otherwise. I certainly have been. I've certainly been programmed that on some level, that level of awareness comes with scrutiny and potentially judgment. So that's my thing to undo. That's my unraveling. That's my dissolving the patterns work to do. But I'm so grateful for having those presences in my life, because that's how we elevate. That's how I even identify that pattern is there, is by having someone who I know sees so clearly. And now, how do I operate under those conditions? Oh, I learned something. And I think that's what the lull is. That's what the lull is about too. It's about, on some level, when I thought I was further along, I was less conscious of what I was doing. I was somehow somewhat unconscious. And so the lull is like, nope, here, coming back to the full consciousness picture, here's where we really are. And on that, when we see it that way, all we can do is love it. I mean, how can you love? How could you not love going to higher consciousness of regarding something that you're working on, a creative piece or whatever. So that's what's coming through today, and it definitely comes with this immense gratitude and a bit of humility, and just a sense of like patience, being willing to be patient, and having an enthusiasm about that, about being made aware again of where I really am, and letting the infusion of awareness be the thing that I experience, and not oh darn, I'm somewhere else on the game board than I thought I was. Anyway, thanks for watching, folks. Love you all. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you soon.